The year was 1848. California was a very quiet place. There were no big cities yet. There were only hills, trees, and rivers. A man named James Marshall was working there. He was a carpenter. He built houses with wood. One cold morning in January, James was working near a river. He looked down into the water. He saw something shiny. James picked it up. It was small, yellow, and heavy. He bit it. It was soft metal. James's eyes got very big. He realized the truth. He whispered, "This is gold." James ran to his boss. His boss was a man named John Sutter. James showed him the yellow metal. John Sutter was happy, but he was also very worried. He owned a lot of land there. He thought, if people know about the gold, they will come here. They will destroy my farm. They will ruin everything. So John looked at James. He said, "James, we must keep this a secret. Tell no one." James agreed. They tried to stay quiet, but secrets are very hard to keep. A worker saw the gold. Then he told a friend. The friend told a neighbor. The neighbor told a shop owner. The secret was gone. The news traveled fast. It left the town. It went across the ocean. Soon the whole world heard the shout, "Gold in California!" Now everyone wanted to go there. It was the year 1849. Suddenly, thousands of people stopped their normal lives. Farmers left their cows in the fields. Teachers ran out of their schools. Husbands left their wives. They all looked west toward California. They had one simple goal: get the gold first. Because it happened in 1849, these people got a special name. They were called the 49ers. But the 49ers had a huge problem. California is very far away. At that time, there were no airplanes. There were no cars. There were no fast trains. So, how do you get there? You had two choices. Both choices were terrible. Choice number one, you walk. You take a wagon with horses or oxen. You have to walk across the whole continent. This was very dangerous. The journey went through deserts and mountains. The sun was incredibly hot. There was almost no water to drink. Sometimes the wheels on the wagons broke. Sometimes the animals died from the heat. The people were tired and thirsty. They looked at the endless road and cried. They asked, "Are we there yet?" The answer was always no. Choice number two, you take a boat. This sounds easy, right? Wrong. The boats had to go all the way around South America. The trip was incredibly long. It took 6 to 8 months. Imagine sitting on a small, crowded boat for half a year. It was not a vacation. The food was bad. The bread was hard like a rock. The water was dirty. Life on the boat was boring and scary. Because the ships were crowded, germs spread fast. People got very sick. They had high fevers and stomach pains. Sadly, many people died on the ocean. They never saw California. They never touched the gold. It was a tragedy. But finally, the lucky survivors arrived. They landed in San Francisco. They were thin, dirty, and exhausted. But they were happy. They looked at the hills and smiled. They thought, "The hard part is over. Now I will be rich." But they were wrong. The hard part was just beginning. The miners arrived with big dreams. They ran to the riverbank. They thought they could pick up gold from the ground like rocks. But the reality was very different. First, the water was freezing. It came from melting snow in the mountains. The miners had to stand in this ice water for 10 or 12 hours every day. Their legs went numb. Their backs hurt. Their skin turned blue. It was miserable work. And the gold was very hard to find. It was not sitting on top of the sand. It was hidden deep in the mud. The men used heavy metal pans. They washed the dirt again and again. They shook the pans for hours. Usually, they found nothing. Sometimes they found a tiny piece of gold dust. It was very small. They put it in a leather bag and kept working. They were tired, wet, and grumpy. At the end of the day, the miners were starving. They needed food. So they went to the local stores. But this was the second big problem. There were thousands of hungry men, but there was very little food. The shop owners saw this. They were smart business people. They raised the prices higher and higher. Everything was incredibly expensive. A simple loaf of bread cost a fortune. A pair of boots cost more than a horse back home. But the craziest price was for eggs. Chickens were very rare in California. If a miner wanted an egg for breakfast, he had to pay a shocking amount. One single egg cost almost $1. In 1849, $1 was a lot of money. Back in the East, that was a whole week of wages. So the miner had a sad life. He stood in freezing water all day to find a little gold. Then he walked to the store. He gave all his gold to the shop owner just to buy one egg and some bread. The gold went into his pocket, and then it went right out again. The miners were not getting rich. They were just surviving. But the shop owners? They were smiling every day. So who actually won this game? Who got the big bags of money? It was not the miners. Most of the 49ers were very unlucky. They worked for months and years. They missed their families. They slept on the cold ground. In the end, most of them had empty pockets. They looked at their empty bags and sighed. This was a mistake, they said. Many of them went back home. They were poor, tired, and unhappy. But remember the shop owners? They were the real winners. They were the smartest people in California. They did not touch the cold river water. They stayed dry and warm inside their shops. They sold food, tools, and beds to the miners. The gold moved from the river to the miner and finally to the merchant. The merchant kept it all. Slowly, the gold rush ended. The gold in the rivers disappeared. It was all gone. But the people stayed. They liked the warm weather. They did not want to leave. So they built big houses. They built banks, schools, and hotels. San Francisco was no longer a small, quiet village. It was now a huge, busy city, with tall buildings and busy ports. In 1850, California officially became a state in the USA. It was a very important place now. The gold made California famous. It changed the map of the United States forever. The poor miners did not find much gold, but they built a new world in the West. And in the end, that was the biggest treasure of all.